$700, but what he did today is going to cost him a lot more than that because now he has no relationship with any of his children.
She brought my ex-wife in here that just divorced her in December, so she just want to antagonize me.
Well, not only did he leave me stranded and not pay me, but since I've been ill and lost my vision, I haven't heard from him, not once in the last 9 months since it happened to me.
I love my daughter, but when she first told me, when I first found out she was in the hospital, I was concerned about the blood thing. I panicked about it. I got stressed about it.
He didn't want a relationship with me when he owed me money. I'm sure he doesn't want one now that he actually has to pay me the money.
Pauline's mad at me, Dottie's mad at me, Angel's mad at me, half my kids are mad at me because of this family here. So I'm not worried about it anymore. I got a life to live and I'm gonna live it.
Former service rep Cindy Blankenship is suing her ex-boyfriend, contractor Robert DiFrancesco, for rent and for trying to strangle her. Cindy claims the assault took place at the end of their month-long drug binge.
This is case number 374 on the calendar in the matter of Blankenship versus DiFrancesco. Has been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Blankenship, according to what I read, you and the defendant met at a bar, and he came home with you the same evening and stayed for a while. And according to your complaint, you had an agreement with him that he was going to pay you rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he stayed with you, 3-4 weeks. He didn't pay any rent. And then you got into some sort of an altercation with him and claimed that he assaulted you.
Yes.
Mr. DiFrancesco says there was never an agreement to pay you rent, that he spent 5 months in jail because you made false charges of assault against him. He was ultimately released, and you want a certain amount of money for rent and $1,500 for this alleged assault.
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Oh, on what day did you meet Mr. DiFrancesco?
This is the beginning of May.
In the evening?
Yes.
And you met him for the first time?
Yes, I did.
And he came home with you?
Yeah, we ended up going to my house. We're going to have a drink at my house. 3 days later, he's still at my home.
Okay, 3 days later, did you say? Well, 3 days later, I assume you let him stay. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, tell me about this agreement that you allege about rent.
Well, as I said, 3 days later, he's still at my house. He informed me that he didn't have any place to go. He had just gotten out of jail, which I wish I had known that, or else if I had, I wouldn't have let him come to my home. Told me he had nowhere to go, and we had both decided, let's try a fast, instant relationship, see what happens. Told him he wasn't going to live with me for nothing. He said he was a hard worker. He had no problem paying me $125 a week. The 30 days that he was with me, he worked maybe 2 days. All of his money went on cocaine. So that's what basically he told me he was going to be doing at my house. And towards the end of it, I said I had enough.
Now, towards the end of it, I had enough is what I want to hear about, the night of this alleged assault. I'd like you to tell me in your own words what happened, Miss Blankenship.
We had been drinking at my house that day.
He does a lot of drinking.
Yeah, we have been out.
And he does a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
Do you also do drugs, or you just drink?
I didn't skip back into drugs until I hooked up with Bobby.
So then the answer is for the 30 days that you were together in your house, you were both drinking and doing drugs.
Yes.
And I assume he was purchasing the drugs.
No, I was. He didn't have any money.
Okay, so you were purchasing and giving it to him.
Basically, we were doing them together.
No. If you bought them and gave them to him. Is that what you're telling me? No. So tell me about the last night that you were together, the night of this alleged assault.
We had been out at one of the local bars drinking. We got I believe it was a 12-pack, went back to my house. When that was all done, we went back out drinking. I suggested that we get something to eat. I was going to get Chinese food. He said, fine. Went home. I was getting the food ready, putting it on plates and everything. I turned around. Bobby's leaning up against the counter with his pants down to the floor, offering me something other to eat than the Chinese food.
And?
I was quite appalled by this whole thought at the moment. I went into the living room. I sat down. I figured I'd try and calm down for a few minutes. I went into the kitchen. He's now eating the Chinese food.
By this time, he's dressed himself.
Yeah.
And he's eating the Chinese food.
Yes.
And what happened?
I asked him if he wanted some rice with the food, and I threw a box of beef fried rice at him.
So you assaulted him with the rice?
No, I threw the rice at the floor.
No, your hand motion was...
Well, I threw the rice, but it wasn't at him physically. It was at the floor.
Well, that's not what you say in your complaint, by the way. You say that you started to throw the Chinese food at him.
In his direction.
In his direction. Okay. And what happened after you were throwing the Chinese food in his direction?
Well, I ended up, he asked him if we needed some sweet sauce with it. After that, we ended up getting into an argument. It boiled down to I was sitting at a chair at the kitchen table trying to figure out what we were going to do with this relationship. We got into an argument. He lunged over the kitchen table, grabbed me by the throat, started to strangle me.
Ms. Blankenship, you left something out, madam, that you put in your complaint. And that was that there was a time that Mr. DiFrancesco just said, I want to get out of here. And that was before you started with the food fight.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to go to the door to leave and get his clothes and leave. And you say in your complaint that you prevented him from leaving.
I, for whatever stupid reasons, didn't want him to take his clothes at the time. I felt that he owed me money for being there, and I figured that we'd straighten it out at some other time.
So you blocked the door.
I blocked the door.
And it was after you blocked the door that he lunged at you?
Shortly after that.
Now you called the police and had him arrested.
When I could get to a phone, I called the police. He ripped the phones out of the wall.
Now when did you finally get to the police?
After I got his hands off my throat.
Okay. So he took his hands off your throat, you called the police, and I assume you let him leave at that point.
I didn't let him leave. He went running out the door. This is after he pulled the alarm system out of the wall. I tried calling 911 from 2 telephones. He kept pulling the phones out of my hand, pressing the off
At that
button.
point, I assume, Ms. Blankenship, that you were ready to let him leave.
Yeah,
Now, what hospital did you go to?
I didn't.
So if you didn't go to a hospital, I assume you weren't injured.
I was injured, but there wasn't anything that I felt that they could do to me
How
that
were
was
you
going to
injured?
make the marks go away.
How were you injured?
By him strangling me, I had marks on my arm, on my face.
Did you take any
I have
photographs
the
of it?
police report and pictures.
I'd like to see.
Plus, I didn't go right to the hospital, or I didn't go to the hospital because the police wanted me to go to the police station. I was down there for about 3-4 hours.
I noticed that in your statement to the police, you didn't tell the police that Mr. DiFrancesco wanted to leave, or that the mess that they observed in the kitchen of the Chinese food all over the place was the result of you throwing it all over the place. How come you didn't tell them that?
Well, I don't recall whether I did or didn't.
You
Your
didn't.
Honor.
Trust me, you didn't.
Well, regardless of that, he has no right to try to strangle me.
You had no right to try to keep him in the house.
Well, I didn't physically block his entrance from
That's what
leaving.
you
The
said.
door
That's
was right there.
exactly what you said.
I stopped him from getting his clothing, not from
No,
walking out
that's
the
not
door.
what you said, madam. You said, when I returned, I was still so angry that I started to throw food at him. He was going to get his stuff and leave, but I was too angry to let him leave with his clothes. I blocked the door.
Blocked the door from him getting his clothes in the bedroom.
So why didn't you let him get his clothes? You were both too drunk.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Cindy Blankenship says ex-boyfriend Robert DiFrancesco owes for strangling her. Robert says Cindy threw Chinese food at him.
Madam, you've been drinking, according to you, for days. Drinking and doing drugs for days. All right, I'm prepared to hear you, Mr. DiFrancesco.
When I first met Cindy, she's right, I did
I
go
heard
to
that
jail.
you met her. You met her at a bar. You went home with her. You stayed too long.
No, I went home with her, and that night I left. At 5 in the morning, some other gentleman called, and I had to leave. She brought me to my brother's house. And then the next day, I went to see her. We did some gardening work, whatever. And,
Could you look at me instead of looking over there?
sorry, off and on, we stayed together for about 3 weeks. I'd see her for a few days, it would be okay. Then she'd start yelling at me for stupid little things and get all crazy. And I'd say, I'm going to leave. So one time she called the police, and I'd already left. So I was
Trying to
Could
run
you
my
just-
household.
Could you look at me when you're speaking, sir?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Your Honor. When the cops came, they just came because she just wanted me to leave, and I'd already left. So I told her, I said, I'm on probation and stuff like that. I can't have any problems with the police, so I don't think this is going to work out. So to make a long story short, we'd go back
You're
and
still
forth,
looking over there.
back and forth, and then another time the police came to get me. The same thing. I just left. I had my bag of clothes. It was raining out.
You
I
be
left.
drinking with her, sir. I mean, but the problem is you're two drunks living together.
Well, Your Honor, the day in question of the day that I got arrested I was working all day. She was at the bar. She was supposed to be going to get her motorcycle license or whatever, but it got done early. She came home. So then I got upset with her. I'd already told her a few times, if this continues, we're not going to stay together. We're not, I can't handle this. You're too abusive.
the other way around, Your Honor.
Your Honor, she assaulted me on other occasions. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. I don't hit women. She was hitting me.
Mr. DiFrancesco, how come you spent 5 months in jail? Were you on probation or parole?
I was on probation, but I was charged with assault with intent to murder, and intimidating a witness. That's what I was charged with.
Okay. And those charges were ultimately tossed.
They were dropped because she pled the fifth. She didn't want to perjure herself.
Well, for whatever reason, they should have been dropped a long time ago. What had you just been released from jail for?
Assault and battery, malicious damage. I got into a big fight at a bar. I did like 2
Mr.
years.
DiFrancesco, may I suggest to you, sir, that you are not a good drunk? Do you understand? You're not a good drunk. And if you're going to continue to drink, I wouldn't take up with somebody who is also a bad drunk. Do Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. How old are you, sir?
42 years old.
You look every day of it, Mr. DeFrancesco. You're getting old before your time, sir.
Well, Your Honor, I did try to leave. That's why, that's why I feel
I
it's
know.
bogus.
Miss Blankenship, you don't have a case. He didn't try to murder you. You were two
If he
drunks
didn't try
having...
to murder me,
Listen
Your
to
Honor,
me.
why did they charge him with attempted murder from the marks all over me?
Listen to
Why
me.
did I call
read
911?
I'm telling you why he called 911, because he finally got fed up with you and he probably did try to choke you. That's why. That's not attempted murder. Just like you throwing Chinese food at him is not assault. You want to drink and do drugs with somebody who also drinks and does drugs? That's what happens. What are you bothering me for? Goodbye.
Why did you excuse me? Step out.
I tried to get out of the relationship. It just ended up being violent.
It's obviously started a different way from him dropping his drawers to the floor and so on, making any type of sexual advances that he wanted to happen. So, I mean, it's insane.
Those are personal issues. That's stuff that normal people do. It's just that it just got carried away.
Him and I being together drinking, not knowing what kind of relationship we were going to get into. So I wish it had never started from the beginning.
Of course, if you drink and drug, it's going to cause problems, but what she stated, that just shows it's one of her traits, you know what I mean? She just talks crazy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kangas versus Kangas, step forward, please.
Licensed investigator Paul Kangas is suing his son, 21-year-old movie theater clerk Shane Kangas, for unauthorized credit card charges and for money owed on a computer. Shane says he worked off the debt by working in the family business.
Mr. Kangas, this young man is your son.
Yes, Your Honor.
How old is he?
21.
What do you do?
I work at a movie theater.
What do you do there?
I serve people popcorn, clean up at the night.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Computer technician.
Okay. Mr. Kangas, you say that your son came to live with you, and you also purchased a computer for him, and I understand that the agreement was it was going to be paid for in sort of barter. He was going to put in a certain number of hours working for your business, which is private investigating business,
Yes, Your Honor.
and that would pay off the computer.
Yes,
And you also gave him a credit card
I did.
and told him to use it, but use it wisely.
It's to help him in the business, so when I send him out to do something, like go to the lab to develop film, that he'd have a way of paying for the film, picking up the film.
And what about personal stuff if he needed something?
Personal stuff, he had to check with me before he spent beyond $20. I have the same arrangement with my daughter, and she honors it strictly with her credit card.
That's what makes horse racing, sir. Children are different.
That's for sure.
Okay. After several months, he decided he didn't like it anymore, so he decided to sit in his room, play his guitar, whatever. You got annoyed. He left. He wanted to pay for the computer and for the credit card bills that he racked up while he was still using the credit card. That's what your lawsuit's about.
Somewhat. It's the reason for buying the computer for him was to motivate him. So I made this deal with him. Look, you pick out any computer you want, and the deal is you'll pay for it out of the amount of time you put in. I'm only asking you to work 4 hours a day. We lived across the street from the courts, so it was easy for
Well,
him.
how long did he work for you after you bought him the computer?
Several months. He was doing quite well. He was really motivated.
Well, how much did he work off of the computer?
About $1,000 of it.
That's a pretty nebulous contract that you have with him, Mr. Kangas.
Well, he didn't last that long because he got so into the computer. I mean, he'd be up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning on the computer, and I'm trying to sleep. I was trying to motivate him. I was trying to control him. I was trying to exert some parental influence on him.
All sounds terrific. Remember, the father knows best?
Yes, I do.
It's not like that anymore.
Well, it's...
Families don't sit around in shirts and ties having dinner together anymore. Everything that you did with your son sounds as if you had the right motivation. He was going to work, and he was going to pay off his computer, and he was going to be responsible with the credit card.
That's right.
Right.
But then we got into a dispute over the computer, and then he moved out and started spending the credit card like it was his credit card, and it was free money, and he just started sending me these bills for huge amounts of money.
Well, what I would like to see is the bills after he moved out. And then, Bert, you know what we're going to do? We need one of those great fly swatters that we used to have. Because there's a sucker here that's looking to meet its ancient relatives.
I think I got just what you need.
You or me?
Took a nice little nose dive right into your back. No, they're no.
See what happens when I get annoyed?
Yes,
Okay. What date did you move out, young man?
It was 14 months ago.
Well, give me a month.
June, July.
June or July. So let me see the bills after June or July. Let's do July.
Well, the deal was no crazy expenses. And
Mr. Kangas, listen to me very carefully, sir. I raised a lot of teenagers, and they are so creative with a credit card.
Yeah.
I didn't know for a very long time that when I gave a kid a gas credit card, that they could go in and get enough food for their entire dormitory in one of those gas places. I didn't know that. And I said, how could they use so much gas? The campus isn't that big. Where is using all that gas? And then I realized that you can buy milk and juice and newspapers and cookies and snacks and hey, da, 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 da. And you can not only buy, listen, and you can not only buy it for yourself, but you can buy it for all your friends, because if you buy it for all your friends, they give you the cash.
Right.
Do you understand? Listen, Mr. Kangas, I know that that happens. I didn't sue my children. So what I want to see is, after he left, because it was clear to me that when you left, you should have left the credit card.
He did. I took it away from him.
And how did he use it?
I don't know how he got another
How
one.
did you use it, sir? Is not an answer.
I had the number on my computer still, so I could still make online purchases.
Okay. Now, Mr. Kangas, what's your first name?
Shane.
Shane. So let me explain this to you. The computer, sir, is yours because your father made too soft a deal for me to have to figure out how many hours you worked and whether or not you paid for the computer with the work that you did for him. That's his problem. But you're a big boy, so you knew that when you moved out of the house and your father took the credit card from you, you were not supposed to use it, right? It's not an answer. If he took the credit card from you, he said to you, what did he say? Give me the credit card, and if you need it, go look on your computer and get the number? Give me the fly swatter. Let me explain something to you. He's a computer hacker.
That's right.
And he's going to go into your bills, and if he has your social security number, he'll steal your identity, and all of a sudden you'll find that you bought 9 surfboards.
Then he took the credit card out of my ex-wife's purse and went back to spending it again.
Well, it doesn't say much for you, sir, that you raised a thief.
No, I feel it's the unexpected legacy of divorce.
That is a crock. That's not the legacy of divorce. I've been divorced, and I had children, and none of them are thieves. 5 of them. Nobody would go into my pocketbook and steal my credit card. So that's ridiculous.
Well, he's depressed, and I feel that...
He's depressed?
Yeah, he's got a...
He's depressed. He's a thief. But that's not being depressed. Look at him. Does he look depressed to you? He doesn't look depressed to me.
He's got a lot...
A little high, maybe, but not depressed. Right, Shane?
No.
Really?
Really?
Really? I see $849 on the credit card after July.
Unfortunately, I put all of the receipts in a special envelope, put it in a special place, and then I couldn't find it, so that by the time I got here, that's what I had. I understand. I should have had better control of my file.
Oh, you should have better control of your son. That judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $849. That's all.
Step out. I can understand where he's coming from because a similar thing happened to me and my father at this age.
We had a fight towards the end of me living there.
And eventually we got back together.
I'm going to go off and do my own thing.
I hope that Shane will sometime recognize me as a friend again because we had a great relationship.
Sarah Gardner is suing.